What's going on, everyone? It is the Derf, and today I'm bringing you an OG Strand build for your Warlock that could be 3 to 4 times more powerful than it's ever been in recent memory. Barrow-Dyad and Swarmers, plus the Act 3 artifact perks that were just released, have changed this build in a more powerful way than we can ever remember in recent memory, bringing back everyone's love of Strand and then adding a ton of damage potential and orb generation on top of it. So if you've been looking for a new OG Strand build for your Warlock, look no further than here. If you guys do find anything helpful with this video, consider liking and subscribing. But of course, my most important thing is if you know a Guardian out there who could use a build like this, send this build to them and let them enjoy the carnage. This one is extremely fun. Let's go, guys. So for our Barrow-Dyad Strand heavy Warlock build here, of course we've got the Brood Weaver Warlock subclass. Needlestorm, one of the best in the business at instant burst DPS, but further going to be loved in this act in Heresy because of the threadling portion of what Swarmers can do, as well as pairing that with the artifacts. So it's just going to be damage on top of instant damage when you cast your super. I recommend the Healing Rift, Burst Glide. Of course, your Arcane Needle is your only option, and specifically to this build is the Threadling Grenade. Now, I have bounced back and forth between the Threadling Grenade and the Shackle Grenade, mainly because you can get multiple things from both of them, but I think the Threadling Grenade edges the win in this one, but if you guys really like the Shackle Grenade, you can equip that as well. For aspects, we're going to go with Weaver's Call. Activate your class ability to weave 3 Threadlings and deploy any Threadlings you have perched. Targets defeated by Strand damage have a chance to generate a perched Threadling. So a couple things going on in here. Certainly Weaver's Call is no stranger to fans of Strand and the Warlock class, obviously. But the key point here is targets defeated by Strand damage have a chance to generate a perched Threadling. Now, targets being defeated by Strand damage doesn't mean that they have to be debuffed or suspended or anything. You just have that chance intrinsically, which means every time that you activate your class ability or you have perched Threadlings and fire at an enemy, those Threadlings are going to leave your side and go and try to find nearby targets, thereby giving you even more worldwide tick damage. So ordinarily, I would probably say Mind Spun Invocation might be fun to have here, but I think with the debuffs that come with Threadlings and Tangles in Act 3, Weaver's Call wins this round. Next up, we've got the Wanderer. Tangles you throw attached to targets and detonate into a suspending burst. Destroying a tangle creates a suspending burst after a short delay. Threadling final blows create a tangle. So a lot of things going on. Basically, the more green on your screen that you can get, the more extra green on your screen you can create simply by just dealing damage and shooting or throwing tangles and deploying your Threadlings. For Fragments, first up on the list, Thread of Warding. Picking up an Orb of Power grants Woven Mail -10 to Resilience, but come on, we need the damage resistance. Next up, we're going to have Thread of Transmutation. While you have Woven Mail, weapon final blows create a tangle. This is going to be pivotal when we get to our artifact as well. Thread of Rebirth is number 3. Strand weapon final blows have a chance to create a Threadling. This is on top of you having a Hatchling Catalyst refit for your Barrow-Dyad in the first place, so this is just going to make this even more powerful. Rounding it out, Thread of Generation, a staple in most Strand builds everywhere. Dealing damage generates grenade energy. For stat distribution, I recommend Resilience, then Discipline, and then potentially Strength if you have any room left over in that order. Honorable mention would be Recovery. If you have Resilience, Recovery, and Discipline at, let's just say, a T8 or higher, with Resilience edging out at a T10, you have a pretty good idea you have a pretty good way, sorry, not idea, you have a pretty good way of generating a ridiculous amount of energy simply from standing in place, from activating your Weaver's Call to chucking your Threadling grenade all over, as well as being able to use your Arcane Needle from a safe, very safe distance, I should say. Those three stats might even be better than the stats that I have, but I really like rolling with as high of discipline and strength as possible, even though I know we can stack our melee 3 times. But so you got some wiggle room here. I would say the least important, of course, besides mobility, would be your intellect, simply because you're going to be generating a ton of damage anyways. So you're going to be regenerating that super, I'd say probably every 2 minutes. That's probably a safe bet in a busier activity, maybe even quicker depending on how your other teammates are playing as well. Of course, in the primary slot is going to be Barrow-Dyad. Now, if you've seen my previous videos, you know this gun is starting to be pretty difficult to put down. Once you get Panic Response 5, this weapon generates Blight as it deals damage. While not firing, Blight depletes and the magazine is gradually filled. Reload the weapon to convert stored Blight into Blighted Seekers. If you don't have Panic Response 5, my next statement is not going to make sense to you yet. Once you have it unlocked, you can select which Taken trait that you want here in column 3. My personal preference is the Taken Ambition. Blight generated increases the longer this weapon remains on a target. Blighted Seekers burrow into targets and explode. The reason I like this one over the other one is I don't have to hit 3 separate targets in order to generate Blight. I generate it just dealing damage regularly until the magazine runs out. Of course, we want to make sure that we've got the hatchling refit. So if you don't have that completed, I have a quick how-to video posted a few days ago on how to complete that last step quick. So make sure you guys check that out if you haven't already. In the energy slot, we're going to go with the Trace Rifle. This, of course, from the Guardian games. It can roll with Dynamic Sway Reduction, Rolling Storm, Jolting Feedback, Eddy Current's kind of a throwaway perk, but it rolled in this one. Jolting Feedback or Rolling Storm, 2 most important ones. Dynamic Sway Reduction, you don't really need that with 100 recoil direction and 80 stability, but we will take it. And then make sure to throw on your backup mag. The thing about this is even if you're not running an arc class, you can still generate bolt charge, which means that once you have a single stack of bolt charge, the more damage you generate, the more bolt charges you get, and eventually lightning strikes will start to form. And when you pair that with this weapon and or Barrow-Dyad, I mean, you're doing some pretty decent damage very quickly. So this one wins, also for the fact that it can stun overloads. If you want to be able to stun barriers, just put a sidearm on. The Division, this roll, obviously you can tell that I haven't used it for anything. This is just to show, where I would put my barrier piercing weapon at. You could theoretically roll with a sniper rifle in this, but that's going to be tough in a busier activity like Court of Blades. An onslaught activity doesn't really seem like that would be a great time to have a sniper rifle. And most strikes in general, or even dares of eternity, there's not really a point to having a sniper rifle. Sniper rifles are much better against like stationary enemies like bosses. We're in the heavy slot. We're going to go with Crowning Duologue. One of the best parts of this Strand Legendary rocket launcher, is the precision frame. The weapon fires a small auto-tracking missile. Missiles lock onto targets when aimed. So if you combine that with the perks that I have here, Impact Casing, Reconstruction, Envious Assassin, you have at minimum, you've got 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 rounds in the magazine at any given time when you fully enhance these, which you can see that I'm not quite there yet. But for the quick DPS burst damage that I personally really love being able to do, which pairs great with Needle Storm and of course Arcane Needle, Crowning Duologue really fits the bill here. I guess theoretically you can put any Strand rocket launcher. There's a Semiotician, but the ability to be able to have a tracking rocket launcher I think wins out here. And the fact that these 2 perks can roll on this weapon, it's worth grinding for if you haven't gotten one yet. But again, when you pick up an Orb of Power, even this thing is going to spawn Unraveling rounds. For the helmet, go ahead and put on whatever general mod that you need. Of course, a heavy ammo finder, since we're going to be relying on our rocket launcher for the, at least the first iteration of burst damage before we switch to Barrow-Dyad, and of course our Needle Storm. And if you want to get your super back faster, I recommend putting on Ashes to Assets. If you're not worried about that because you think it generates fast enough, go ahead and put on 2 harmonic siphons. Don't ask me why I don't have this already on here, but 2 harmonic siphons would fit the bill here. But I really like being able to use Ashes to Assets. So just, when you guys are making your characters up, keep all that in mind because it is important. Next up for the gauntlets, whatever general mod that you need is completely fine. I recommend either 1 firepower and 1 heavy-handed or 2 firepowers. The reason why I would omit heavy-handed if I had to is because what I use heavy-handed for is mainly majors, and most of them don't die with just getting hit with Arcane Eel, which means that when they die, they do spawn that tangle, which you can then use to pair with your exotic armor, of course your Barrow-Dyad, all things that are going to add, with the artifact to additional tick damage. My personal preference is also to run with the harmonic loader because, of course, Barrow-Dyad doesn't have, it's not slow, but it's not the fastest reload speed on the market. So it's nice to be able to get back into the fight sooner. For our chest armor, make sure you mod out for Strand reserves so your rocket launcher can fire as many rounds as possible. 2 damage resistance mods, and of course, whatever general armor mod that you need to get to where you need to be as far as stat goes. So here we go. Swarmers makes another appearance in one of my build videos. It's just too good to put down. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Swarmers, destroying a tangle spawns a threadling. Your threadlings unravel targets that they damage. Once we go over the artifact, this is going to basically make, I think I already coined it, Swarmers 3.0 or 300% Swarmers is what I talked about in my other video. Swarmers is simply unbeatable when you pair it with the Act 3 perk releases for the artifact. The ability for the tangles to spawn into threadlings and threadlings to deal additional damage, as well as unravel targets, on top of everything you're already doing that's unraveling targets, on top of your Barrow-Dyad, on top of your rocket launcher, and on top of your Needle Storm, just makes this exotic armor. I mean, it went from A+ low S tier to, S+ tier overnight, and maybe second to none right now, given how potent you can make a Swarmers build in general. For mods, I recommend putting on whatever general mod that you need. Of course, maximize it, get your artifice slot going. And then number 1 on the list is recuperation. You cannot regenerate health by any other means other than recuperation. Of course, you can use your healing rift, but if you are in the nether, you're not going to get any health back hardly with your healing rift. So make sure you have recuperation on. Innervation, numero uno on this list because we're going to be rolling with the Threadling Grenade, and of course Absolution, so you can get a quick tick down of all of your abilities that you are going to be using. For our class item, go ahead and mod it however you need to with the general mods that you need to. 100% font of restoration. This is why I don't have my recovery up to a T10 and I have those stats elsewhere, is because once I pick up an Orb of Power, I get a plus 35 instantly to my recovery stat, which puts me at, 71. And if I pick up 2, I'm going to be in a T8. So it's a win-win for everyone. Put on font of restoration so you can activate your class ability more often. Once you activate your class ability, Bomber is going to kick in and give you your grenade back quicker. And if that's not enough, your first weapon kill after you use your class ability is going to give you an Orb of Power. So all good things going on. And by the way, your Orb of Power, it's going to pair with your Font of Restoration on top of your other Orbs of Power that you haven't even picked up yet. For our Tablet of Ruin, go ahead and put on Piercing Sidearms, Overload Trace Rifles, and of course, Unstoppable Launchers. In the second column, make sure you have Vile Weave. Targets hit by your tangles are severed. Reduce tangle cooldown by picking one up. It's not a huge cooldown. It's about 1 second, but hey, it's 1 second less that you have to wait. Pair that with Unraveling Orbs. Picking up an Orb of Power or a Tangle grants Strand weapons Unraveling rounds, and when you boost it, Strand weapons deal increased damage to Strand debuff targets. So, Vile Weave and Unraveling Orbs pair about as nice as you could ever make two perks. But wait, there's more. In the fourth column, we're going to go with Horde Shuttle. Damaging unraveling targets with a weapon occasionally spawns a Threadling, and when you boost that, Threadlings sever targets that they damage. So now you can sever with Threadlings, and you can sever with Tangles. So on top of what you're going to be doing with your Unraveling Orbs, I don't know if you can get 3 artifact perks more in tune than these 3. But wait, there's more. In the very last column, 2 Shreds. Dealing sustained damage to severed targets unravels them. Defeating a severed target creates a hotspot of Strand energy, granting Woven Mail to nearby allies for a short duration. And if you boost this, unraveling projectiles deal increased damage. These deal further increased damage to severed targets. So we have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 in tandem style perks that will pair with Swarmers. Better than peanut butter and jelly on a sandwich. I mean, they're interchangeable as far as their usage. And for one to power the other, to power the other, to power the other, and for all those individual ones to power more than one of the other ones on this artifact, I mean, it's a perfect storm, and that's exactly what you're going to see on your screen. A storm of green just mowing the battlefield down. If that wasn't enough, make sure you get some gold from lead. Picking up special ammo has the chance to grant heavy ammo. And of course, Elemental Siphon, rapid final blows with kinetic weapons or a weapon matching your equipped super creates an elemental pickup that matches your equipped super. In this case, it's Tangles, and we've already gone over how powerful Tangles can be here in Vile Weave. So on top of that, with Swarmers, every Tangle produces 2 Threadlings. So double, what is that? 1 times 2 times 3. So that's 300%. Plus you got that, plus you got that, plus you got that. Yeah, Swarmers in this build is about 300 to 400% more powerful than it has been in seasons past. If you pair that with Dielectric, Flashover, and Heavy Ordnance Regeneration, you have the ability to not only generate grenade and melee regeneration, but you also get Bolt Charge, which will discharge lightning bolts. And of course, if you boost it, rapidly defeating arc debuff targets spawns an Orb of Power and heals a small portion of health. So all good things that you can theoretically take advantage of at virtually any point during any strike, any raid, any harder endgame style activity. You're going to be able to keep up with the enemies and also give yourself some health back based on the artifact. And that's going to be on top of your recuperation mod on your armor. So that is the build. Now, the only thing that people are really going to have to decide is if this is going to be powerful enough for endgame activity. My initial answer is going to be yes. There's a couple of caveats, though. You need to make sure you're picking up your Orbs of Power to get your health back. You need to make sure that you have a Trace Rifle on so that you can generate health. And the rocket launcher is imperative so that you can generate additional grenade and melee energy. But the tick damage that you can generate from Threadlings, Tangles, and the Unraveling rounds on top of the Barrow-Dyad Blight Seeker rounds, I mean, it's a powerful combo. So as long as you can stay alive in an endgame activity, this build will hold up very well. So I guess what I'm saying is that not every GM is probably going to be made for this build, but there's plenty of them out there that this would be theoretically viable with some decent stat rolls on your armor, a little bit of luck there. And then pairing this with this artifact, this goes from probably an A tier rated build, low A tier rated build, depending on, who's who in the zoo, where you're at in the system and what you're doing, up to S tier in virtually every activity. It just is. It's keeping up with Arc. It's keeping up with Void. Certainly it's blown away Stasis, and Solar is non-existent this season. So you got your pick, Strand, Arc, or Void. And quite honestly, Arc is edging out Void a little bit right now, and Strand is just blowing Arc away. Maybe not necessarily in raw DPS numbers, but I mean, there's only 1 or 2 bosses per GM anyways, like real bosses. So you're not really hurting for the instant DPS when you have so much extra tick damage and the ability to sever and spawn tangles and those things. So, but you guys can, test it out yourselves. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you did find anything helpful in this video, of course, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't. If you know a Guardian in need who could use a really great Strand Warlock build that centers around Barrow-Dyad and Swarmers, make sure to send this video to them, share this video with them, or send them my way. My goal is to help as many people as possible. Certainly, I'll have a dim link in the description, and I will also have a link to my Discord where we have currently a pretty decent community starting to form. So lots of exciting things happening with this channel so far, and it's all thanks to you guys and the support you've given me. So anyways, I'm going to switch back over to a couple more highlights just so you guys can see some more things in real time. But hopefully you guys try this build out. It works well for you. But let me switch over right now. So I wanted to go back real quick and just show you the sheer amount of chaos and DPS potential that this build has. When you pair this with your Needle Storm as well as the Blight Seekers from Barrow-Dyad, I mean, just look at the chaos that's going on right now. There's green almost everywhere. And all that green is doing is finding additional targets to sink its teeth into. So whether you're a brand new player to the Strand subclass or you're just getting warmed up to Warlock, this is both a great entry-level build as well as a build that once you get used to it, you can take it into virtually anywhere and decimate the battlefield. So guys, I really hope that this build found you well. Tons of things you can do to help support your teammates with this as far as being able to generate additional damages and things like that. So again, if you guys did find anything helpful in this video, please consider liking and subscribing or sharing with a Guardian in need. I really appreciate it, guys. I will see you next time. Take care.